The Buffalo world of TV journalism has three lovely ladies who take a very serious approach to their professions. Nona Barbie, Pat Wilson, and Sandy White all combine reporting and anchoring skills for their respective news departments, and each displays an energetic dedication to their craft.
Well, I can't imagine anything being more important. How else are you going to keep in touch with the world, with neighbors, with your community, other than through the news? I know that people have complaints that we don't cover necessarily the more positive aspects of the community, and that's a legitimate gripe. But bad news is good news on TV, although we try to cover the human aspects of life with features. Some happy, some sad, it depends.
Well, my first love, I have to say, is journalism, and a big part of journalism is telling the truth, regardless of who it hurts. And that's hard to do sometimes, and you know, even in that, a bit of sensitivity has to be employed. I always, even when I think I'm breaking something that might be detrimental to someone, you know, you have to kind of think twice about what it's going to do to the person and what it's going to do to the people who this person is affecting. So it's always, always, always a job of judgment.
Every story I approach a little bit differently depending on the circumstances. There's certain spot news stories that you approach a little bit differently than you would a tragedy scene or any other story. But I enjoy my position and my job, and whatever I do, I try to get the human element out of each individual story. There's always another side to the story that's never seen behind the facts, how it affects the people that are involved. And that's what I try to get out of basically every story that I do.
Advice for youngsters interested in careers as newspersons centers on being prepared.
Well, first of all, I think a person has to have a love for journalism before TV news, because journalism itself is a much, much, much broader field than television. And in this city, you have 3 commercial TV stations, and you can imagine that only a few people are going to have jobs in television news. And, you know, the name of the game is making money and earning a living, as well as doing the job of informing the public and informing yourself. I mean, we learn a lot doing this as well as teaching others.
I tell them, first of all, forget the glamour. It's not glamorous. It's hard work, and it's a very painful process because that's you naked before the world. I tell them to be serious about getting an education, going beyond high school through college. That's very difficult, especially with Reagan budget cuts now. There's no easy way. There's no easy answer.
That question gets asked quite often. The media is very popular right now, and everyone wants to get in it because they think it's glamorous. And it is. There is a certain amount of glamour to it, but not entirely, and I think you know that quite well. But the advice I try to give to young people who I value so much and I think are so important and who I think are also overlooked, I try to tell them not to give up because it is a very competitive field, to also persevere, to hang in there, to stick with it, because it's important in anything you do in life to not give up when the going gets tough. And especially in this job, you have to hang in there no matter what. You have to let certain things roll off your back no matter how hard it gets.
For anyone who's interested in the so-called glamour of the job, they need to think twice, maybe go into modeling or something like that.
Balancing a pressurized career against the demands of marriage and personal life has been given great thought.
Marriage is very difficult in this business. You have to put an awful lot into marriage, and I believe firmly in the institution of marriage. And it's something I'd like to do eventually, one day when the right man comes around. But right now, that's not the case, and I'm very involved in my career, and my concentrations are all there.
Well, it was very difficult. My husband was the one that encouraged me to do what I want, to go into journalism if that's what I want. He stood behind me, and because I took a terrific pay cut, he picked up most of my bills, so he was carrying both loads. every day he had to pump me up for over a year to go back out there and deal with the job and the frustrations. And it seemed like I was never going to learn to write. I was never going to get the hang of it. And he encouraged me. I think you do need a strong support person. And my husband has no problems with me outshining him in terms of some people might
know who you are.
Be intimidated by having someone in a business that's as public as TV journalism. He's the reason I got through it.
I'll be getting married in June to a very fine man, Conrad Hunt, and he'll be coming to Buffalo to live. He certainly understands the fact that I have a career and has embraced that as he's embraced our marriage. So we will juggle that.
The newscaster's personal side shows a variety of interests.
The 2 days that I have off, I like to regroup. I don't do a heck of a lot other than read. That's my favorite activity. And in the summertime, horseback riding or just hanging out. But I don't have any particular hobbies other than reading that consume my time. And I'm trying to change that, getting into physical fitness. Well, this is my niece Maria. She's from Philadelphia. And she's a very good girl. I want a family eventually, and that's difficult in this business, but you can do it. It depends on your priorities. And now that I'm more settled in a career and I feel more secure in it, I will have a family. I will have a family.
I like sewing, believe it or not. It fascinates me to be able to make something that I could have spent gobs of money for and get it for dirt cheap.
Tell me a little bit more about your running. How'd you get into running and how far and how often?
Well, you can imagine living on the farm, you have lots of open space, and I always took advantage of it. I rarely walked anywhere. I preferred to run to wherever I was going instead of walking. And so then I went off to live in the big city, and I needed a way to maintain my freedom that was afforded me on the farm, and running provided that for me.
When I come home, I love to sit home and just relax, take a deep breath, and try to get in tune with what's around me, which is my surroundings here, which I've tried to make as comfortable for myself as possible. And I also play a little flute from time to time. I'm not good at it, but I started as a young child, and my father always wanted me to take up a musical instrument, and I did. I have a little formalized training in piano and flute, but I'm not good. I never professed to be good at it, but I enjoy it. I like to, putting my fingers on the keys and trying to reach for a note, try to express something that's within inside me. I like taking walks, listening to the birds. Very simple things satisfy me.
And there you have it, a somewhat personal look behind three of the faces on Buffalo News. We'll be right back with more of City Scenes.